friends and neighbors. Welcome in the light, where laughter's the answer and hearts are shining bright. With calloused hands and wits, so raise your sharp. Let's praise a place where love ignites the spark.
Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to Sunnyside. Well, we've done it. I've decided that it's okay for us to have cameras. Been doing that on the other podcasts that produce with the Gridiron Club, and haven't done it yet with Mr. B's dinner party. That's probably a good reason for that. We'll see how Scott Bertelsen feels about that. But the Sunny Side of Life is now also broadcast on YouTube like we have been doing, except now you can see us. So I'm sorry if this is if the voice doesn't match what you were expecting. I apologize for that. Apparently never checked out, the podcast website, but here I am. And today, it's the perfect day to start it. We've got a guest with us, and I want you to meet her. She's been sitting here quietly the whole time. We have with us Stacy Besch, and she's running for state senate. Hi, Stacy. How are you?
Hey, Troy. I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. You found your way through the winter wonderland that it is when that we had that snow yesterday. Of course, we're recording this on a Sunday afternoon, and you're from here. You're off to do something that's also very important to you. So maybe we should start talking about like who you are and what you're going to go do here in a couple hours.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be leaving here. So thanks for doing this on a Sunday afternoon. And it is beautiful out, even though we had 3 inches of snow yesterday.
Is that what it was?
That's what we got over kind of west of Algona. But,
okay.
It is Iowa, so we shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and it'll be gone. It'll be gone.
Next week.
Yeah, that's right.
Next week. So that's today I'm going to be leaving here and heading to Duncan. So we're going to be at the Duncan Hall tonight.
Yeah.
So this is probably my biggest volunteer job that I have done in all of my life here so far. And I believe in volunteerism, but I joined Team Iowa about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And Team Iowa, we're just a group of Christian patriots. We're located all across the state. We've been meeting, and our nights have varied, but currently we meet every Tuesday night via Zoom for 2 hours.
Every Tuesday?
Every Tuesday night.
Oh, okay, so over 100 hours just in Zoom meetings a year.
Just in Zoom meetings.
Wow.
But it's been an awesome experience because we're either educating each other, and we'll get into a little bit like what my role is and what my part is, or we have guest speakers on to educate us. So it's been an eye-opening experience from... When we say guest speakers, we've had so many guest speakers over the last, how many years. And Dr. Lee Merritt, she's one of our key people that not only is she on our team, but she also has been a guest speaker many times for us on our team. Okay. So now saying that, it was about 3 years ago, our state director, Steve Corey, he lives in Salix, Iowa.
Say that again?
Salix, Iowa. Tiny little town.
Salix, okay.
Little bigger than Duncan.
Okay, wow,
it's
all
right
right.
outside of Sioux City.
Okay.
Right outside of Sioux City, and he's our team lead. I mean, he kind of connected with Team America. If somebody was to look this up, Team America was started by Jeffrey Prather. Okay. And he was military. He was a part of the Fast and Furious escapade down in Arizona.
Okay, sure.
And so when you become a whistleblower, you are released from the military.
And is that what happened?
That's what happened.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he wanted to see a movement. He wanted to see a movement come across this country, and a lot of military people are a part of this whole movement. And that's kind of how these teams started coming up in every state. So,
and he called it Team America.
Team America.
Because you can also, when you Google that, there's also an old movie from the end of the 90s or something like that called Team America with puppets or something like that. So just... it's not that. It's not that.
This is
and
not
if he was
puppets.
in the military, I think he would have known that. I think it's like one of the things we do in the military is we watch a lot of movies when we're not, doing other stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, and he's pretty hardcore, and he's a chaplain. He's a cool man. Jeffrey's a really good guy.
Yeah.
So
Well, Chaplain probably didn't see that movie then.
Yeah, he probably didn't watch that.
Okay.
Maybe we won't tell him about that.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, right.
So that was how Steve Corey said to us about 3 years ago. He said, we really as a team, what are we doing? What are we fighting? What can we help our state with? What can we help our country with? And the first thing we kind of brought up is what do we think our country and states are facing as the biggest challenges, and human trafficking rose to the top. And the first thing I can share with any audience is that the United States of America, we are number 1 in the world when it comes to child trafficking and child pornography.
Wow. It's not a statistic we want to celebrate.
No,
we don't want to be number 1 in that. Yeah. How does that happen?
We just have the most consumers and buyers here within the states. We've made it too easy.
Okay.
Really, way too easy.
Yeah.
So that trickles through all of our states then, if that's, what's happening as the United States as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So then when we started kind of breaking this down, we needed somebody to say, I'll take this on and I'll bring awareness throughout everywhere across the state, because we realized that if it's that prevalent in the United States, we know Iowa had to kind of be up there too, even though we think we're Iowa nice.
Right.
Yeah, we think.
Well, we are. I mean, I think we are nice people, but we are also at the crossroads of America, aren't we? With I-80 and I-35.
But if you came to my program sometime, you'll hear, Troy, that's the perception I'm trying to get people away from.
Okay.
We all think that. We come from the Johnny Gosh days. So we think it's about kidnapping.
Yeah.
We think it's about creepy white vans, I-80, 35, 29, or I-corridor.
Yeah.
And yet that's a really tiny piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Yeah, our small towns probably have more happening than anywhere on the interstate.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's when I grew up, the milk carton stuff, and you say Johnny Gosh, and, that was a big, everybody was concerned about it. In fact, I remember going on a family vacation, and my mom, she's so glad this is on, now we're on camera, and I was like, she would tell my cousin Dean and my brother and I, as we were heading out to go fishing in, I think, Guttenberg, Tennessee, and she's like, you guys stay together, because otherwise you'll get kidnapped by those Arabs. And then she said, Mom, I love you. You said this. She's like, you guys are good white meat. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means, Mom. What is going on with you? And so my whole life, or at least since that time, mid 80s, I've been thinking, am I? What's going on? Who's in that van? So, and you're saying that is part of it, but it's a very small part.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say that kidnapping's not happening, because it is, but it's evolutionized into something much greater and deeper than that.
Wow.
So I raised my hand and said I would take this on, even though I come from that background. Mm-hmm. So I was clueless. I mean, I was naive. I was clueless.
And that was 3 years ago?
That was 3 years ago.
Okay.
Because I was just thinking like you did. I'm like, well, it's just kidnapping. It's the interstates.
Right. Haven't heard about that in Algona.
I live far enough away. Yeah, I live far enough away from the interstate, from Clear Lake. It can't be happening to me.
Right.
Around our area. So when I raised my hand and said I would take it on, I've been a speaker for over 25 years. I just had no idea I'd be speaking about this. And we can get back into that later if we want to get into that. When I raised my hand, I was immediately thrown into meeting our top 3 detectives in our state at that time. And it was Greg Hall and David Gonzalez out of North Liberty, Iowa. They were working for Hope for Justice.
Okay.
And then we had Ray Fiedler out of the DCI out of Waukee.
Okay.
So all of them came to Algona. I learned from them there. I was on the road with Greg a little bit. I learned from there. And so we just really started bringing all this to a presentation form to where I knew that we had to get out to the public. Mm-hmm. So I put the whole program together, but we needed a foundation. And that foundation was, we kick it off, and I'll be doing that tonight, is we kicked it off with a documentary called Grid Shock.
Okay.
Grid Shock was produced right here in Iowa by Vanessa McNeil.
Okay.
This documentary is only about sex trafficking in Iowa, and it's alarming.
Oh, wow.
It's alarming.
Now, where's she from? Is she from Iowa?
She's from Des Moines.
She's from Des Moines?
Yeah, she's from Des Moines now, and she lives in Des Moines, but she went to Iowa State University, and then she went on to UNI to get her master's. Mm-hmm. She's still a life coach now. We still stay in contact, but she put this together because she was a victim, not of sex trafficking, but she was sexually assaulted by an older sibling. So she knew there was a much darker, deeper side to all of this. Okay. And a lot of times that kind of stems it or could feed into the start of all of this. Mm-hmm. So she put this together. We bought the educational license for that film, Grid Shock, so we can show that anywhere we want to go.
Okay.
Tonight will be my 209th presentation.
How about that?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
And it's not like 209 days in a row. You've been doing this for 3 years.
Yeah, almost 3 years.
And so was that documentary was already done. When was that made?
It was produced in 2019.
Okay. So, all right. So but still very, very new within the last 6 years. Okay. Now I had when I was in the National Guard, we would have leadership meetings down in Des Moines at Camp Dodge, and we would get briefed on a variety of things. And one time we were briefed for a whole day on motorcycle gangs in Iowa, which was alarming to me. And I was furious. I don't ride a motorcycle. But I was like, now I'm suspicious of, and you over there in Algona with the A-bait. I don't know what's going on. I was always suspicious. I'm sure they do good things. That's not the point. But I didn't like the idea that they would be roving gangs that would just take control of areas of a state. That offends my concept of a democracy and all of that. And I didn't like the crime aspect and all the other things they were in. Then another time that we did this, we had this lady come in, and I can't remember her name. She was from outside of Des Moines, but in central Iowa area. And I don't remember what organization she represented, if it was similar to what you're talking about. This was certainly beyond more than 3 years ago. I would say this was maybe even 10 years ago, or sometime in the last 10 years. I retired, 4 years ago. So certainly before that. And her whole presentation, a 2 or 3 hour presentation, was about what was going on with sex trafficking, human trafficking in the state of Iowa, and her frustrations with not having the ability to get judges and prosecutors to do their part. They would have. She said that she would. Of course, she showed us all of the the hand signals that you're supposed to do, and talking about how they would even at schools and universities like Iowa State, for example. She used that would have they have different ways. Like it's human trafficking and getting you into that. I don't want to say business or whatever, but I mean is nefarious in a variety of ways, and it's tricky how they do it. They can take your picture and they can manipulate it, and they can say, oh, this, or they'll give you some sort of chemical or whatever, and then you'll maybe get in a situation, and then they'll film that, and then they'll use that, and they say, we're going to show your family if you don't do this. Is this what we're talking about? Similar type
You're
of
kind of right on the target.
Okay.
This is a business. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar business.
Wow. In Iowa, or just,
overall.
Okay.
Overall, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and it's exceeded narcotics.
Oh, wow.
And we always tell people this: you can only sell drugs one time, but you can sell a human being over and over again.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the sad reality.
Yeah.
So it's become lucrative to their pocketbooks that they continue this process, and they don't like people like me out there, trying to talk about this, or really anybody else talking about it.
So this lady, I feel so bad I can't remember her name, but it was 10 years ago, let's say. But she said that, she would get people that would, threaten or drive by her house, or they didn't like what she was doing, and she would get, and they have to, they have security cameras because just people were, there were suspicious vehicles and things happening, and that made her very worried because she was leading this charge. So has that ever happened to you?
Yes.
It has.
Yes.
So there's people that say we don't really.
Yes. And, a lot of it is because they're just trying to use their scare tactics. A lot of times what they do to the victims themselves, but they're trying to get you to stop, because if we start bringing enough darkness into the light on this whole topic, they know this is going to hurt their pocketbook, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're used to this money. They rely on Johns, and Johns are the buyers, the demand.
Yeah.
And the demand's what we want to go after.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't need the supply of victims if we got rid of the demand. And in Iowa, we have a huge, mass amount of demand.
Okay. I can understand, I think, the driving force behind that. But, why is it how do you fix that?
I know that's a tough one. So Mark Thompson's a legislator right now down in, our capital. He's from, Wright County. Mm-hmm. Mark keeps kind of saying, we keep saying the same words. We want to go after demand reduction. And there's a big question mark on how do you go after them. We just need to start exposing them. Mm-hmm. Because in Iowa, I love that we're Iowa nice. So you talked about that. I love that we're Iowa nice. We raise families here. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But let's face it, we'll say, well, I know that man down the street. There's no way he could be involved. He's a nice guy. He goes to my church, or I see him at things. And so we tend to turn the cheek and turn away and not get involved because we're Iowa nice, and we see the good in everybody, which is why I love living here. But there's a lot of demand around, and it's not any one town specifically. I mean, could we name some towns that are cesspools for some of this? Absolutely. I'm going to throw the word out, Okoboji.
Oh.
We have some towns that are, you think about it. They got
a lot of traffic.
Very wealthy people coming from all different areas. They don't actually reside in Okoboji. Mm-hmm. They know exactly who to call to get a girl there or boy, and then they have their way with them, even at parties. And it could be multiple men or multiple people on one victim in one night.
Okay. So that's not Iowa nice.
No, it's not.
That's terrible. Okay, so I could see then. So who's behind? Like, who's behind all of this? Like the Scooby-Doo episode. How do we get
pull
to
the mask
Yeah,
off.
where is that?
I would love to pull the mask off. So there's traffickers, obviously, that are coordinating all of this. There's traffickers out there who have so many victims. Then they're the phones that are being called to, hey, we want a girl here at this party or this or that. So the traffickers, the thing is, if we keep going after the traffickers, the Johns will just go find another trafficker.
Okay.
So we need to expose them both, right? If we're going to try to really eradicate this or end this. I love when Mark Thompson will say, I'm tired of seeing the man in an orange jumpsuit all tatted up for his mugshot, because that's what we all picture. I mean, that's what I picture when I think of a mugshot.
Yeah.
What if we had a man in a $1,200 suit for his mugshot? Because the typical buyer is a man who wears a suit and tie to work every day and probably has a family, probably has a great home. And yet we learned from this film Grid Shock that the number one day of the week is Mondays, because they've spent all weekend with their family, and then their sexual desires come to play. And Monday morning is the number one buying day.
Really?
It's disturbing, isn't it?
I mean, boy, that brings a whole new aspect to that Bangles song. Monday, Monday. I mean, I had no idea. That's news to me. Monday. I wouldn't. I would have thought it would have been a weekend, but it
That's
makes
what I would
sense.
think too.
Yeah.
No, granted, we won't talk about parties. I'm going to assume then the weekend, but you're right. I would have never guessed Monday. The first time I ever saw Grid Shock, that was one thing that stood out to me, as like Monday mornings or Monday at noon or Monday after work. And that's where a lot of times these girls are being taken to, or boys. And I never want to just discredit and say boys, because if we really kind of get into this, Troy, boys are the highest paid commodity. They will pay more for a boy than they will a girl, especially if their age is 10 and younger.
So my mom was right.
Yep.
Like in 1984.
You were that boy fishing. Yes, she was. Your mom was smart back then.
Yeah.
She
She
didn't want to see your face on a milk carton.
Right.
And these kids today, they don't even know what that is. They didn't know what a milk carton with a face is. It.
Yeah, but she blamed the Arabs. So are they the ones behind this, or is it?
No. No, unfortunately. There's no discrimination on race, color, sex, political party. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It can be anybody, anywhere. So
did they have a lot of times how do they get them? How do they get these kids? Or these they're not all kids either. I mean,
right.
How do they select them? How do they get them? How's that process?
So the number one way is through the phones or their devices.
Really?
Number one, yeah. So when we think it's about, I see him at the Walmart, or I see him at a truck stop on the interstate.
Yeah.
Again, that I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it's a really tiny piece. But that's where everybody, unless we bring awareness, everybody's looking for, that guy's following me around in Walmart, and he might be taking my kid. But then these same parents, when they get home from work, they tell their kids to, go get in your room or do whatever, or sit on the couch, and they throw a device in front of their face to either keep them quiet or to keep them occupied. Parents, it's happening through their devices.
Oh my gosh.
Number one. And I tell these kids, I've been going around to schools now, and I've been in front of now almost 10,000 students to this day. These kids, when I tell them, I'm standing right in front of these students, and I say, do you not think for 1 minute traffickers are smart? They've had to evolve. They're not going to go to Walmart. They know that every kid has a phone, and they know that every kid has certain apps. They're going to go to the most popular places.
Wow. Yeah.
Walmart's not the popular place anymore. It's your device that you're hanging on to. And if people would just start to realize, especially parents, they'll come up to me and they'll say, well, Stacy, I know exactly who my kid's playing with, and I have parental controls. And then I always say this, I want to go beat my head against the wall, because parental controls, when my phone breaks down, Troy, guess who I hand it to? I hand it to a kid to fix it. They can bypass all that stuff. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to navigate through it, but a kid can.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so, parents in some parts of the country get taken to the police station because they let their kid walk to the store, and they, that's not good parenting when you let your kids out there walking, because we have this hysteria about whether it's Johnny Gosh or, nobody wants their kids to be kidnapped, but at the same time, those same parents that are, having a Karen moment, taking somebody else's parenting and saying, you're not being a good parent, I'm going to turn you into the police because you let your kid walk alone to the park or whatever.
Right.
They're throwing their own kids in front of a device that is just, the whole world is behind there, and not a good one.
Oh, that's a great, because here's the statement I tell everybody. If your kid has access to the internet, the world has access to them.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a powerful statement.
Used to say we invited people into our living room. We were watching TV, and remember when Disney was on Saturday nights, and you could just sit around with your family and watch, and you're just inviting Walt Disney into your living room. But now it's like with our phones and our devices, our tablets and all that stuff. I mean, you're inviting. It's not Walt Disney.
No, not at all. No, not at all. And they look for the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
These predators are online, and it's so easy for them. These kids think they're talking to another, like if, you and I were 12 years old and I was messaging you, you as a 12-year-old boy, you probably believe that I'm a 12-year-old boy playing with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And the reality is, more than likely, I'm not.
Yeah.
I could be easily a 50, 60-year-old man from maybe the same town or maybe across the country or across the world. I don't know.
Yeah.
But these kids believe it. So they believe it, and they start engaging in conversations, and pretty soon this person who they think is the same age as them finds out a whole lot of information about them, like their parents, their family life. And as soon as they feel they get one little tidbit of information that they can prey upon, they do it. If they find out their parents, this just happened to a boy in Esterville. This guy found out that this boy's parents were poor, come from a poor family. So he started sending him lavish gifts, and we call it lavish gifts. It could be anywhere from, devices to cash to a bicycle to a car. I mean, it could be anything. And this boy was getting lavish gifts and then, of course, cash. And the cash, this man said, give that to your parents to help them out. And parents just thought it was a guy being a really nice guy. And then when the moment is right, they strike.
Wow.
And they made this boy meet up.
Yeah.
And then not only is he raped by this man, but then he's sold to other men.
Oh my God! So where is he? Like they found? How do you know this story? Or we don't know where he is?
This boy was in my presentation at Esterville schools, and then he talked to me afterwards, and all these stories. These kids come talk to me, and it breaks my heart.
He was listening to you.
Yes,
and that's when this came forward.
You know what he said to me afterwards? He heard my whole presentation, which is a 2-hour long presentation, because I have the film, and then I share how this is happening, what is going through these people's minds, and then how they go after the kids. And he came up to me at the end right away, and he said, "I'm being trafficked," and I had no idea I was being trafficked because he didn't know what to call it. He didn't know that's what it was. He knew something wasn't right.
Well, yeah.
Right.
That's a big, that's huge. Got to be a huge part of it. Like, because we make parents aware. And then there's a tendency to say, probably not my kid, but I mean, we got to keep an eye on this. But then the kids themselves, I mean, when it's happening like that, you said he didn't know even what to call it, and this was occurring.
That's right.
Yeah, because you want them to come forward and say, hey, this is like that would, they need to recognize what's happening.
Right. Kids need to recognize it too.
Yeah.
But let's face it, grooming is all about manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
So they're manipulating these kids into, they figure out where the triggers are. Mm-hmm. More than likely, they're vulnerable kids, either troubled homes, split homes, low confidence, low self-esteem. Those are the people they go after because they know exactly that they can just start preying upon it, get them convinced that their life at home sucks. Mm-hmm. We had a girl from Hampton, Iowa. She got lured in on her Chromebook. And when she got lured in, this man convinced her. Now, she thought it was a 16-year-old cute boy from California. Mm-hmm. That's who she thought it was. It was a grown man. Mm-hmm. He convinced her that her home life was just terrible and that she'd be better off living with him and sent her a one-way plane ticket to California.
Did she take it? Or
by the grace of God, the mom found out 2 hours before that was going to happen.
Oh, man. Wow. And this is all happening, like you said, right here
Iowa.
in
This
Iowa.
is literally like, these towns I'm naming.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's right here. And yet parents are probably, the youngest people that are probably coming to let's say the majority, coming to my presentations are mostly the grandparents. I don't know if the parents are just wanting to say, hey, I'm too busy, or this wouldn't happen to my kid, or it's not in my neighborhood. I'm going to look at the camera. I am begging you to start showing up to these presentations because if you have a child at all, I'm going to say at all, it doesn't matter what age, you need to be educated on what is really happening. Because if you're not, and you're not getting taught or you're not teaching your kids, someone else is teaching them.
Yeah. Oh, and they're not good lessons. So I think if you, I mean, we make the kids aware, make the parents aware. That is an uphill battle all its own. You've been fighting that, you said, for the last 3 years, and you said you're 209 tonight in Duncan. This comes out on a Monday. So it'll be after your presentation, but apparently one of the busiest days of the week for this type of nefarious activity. And so you talk about the Johns, awareness. I mean, what do we have on the books right now for prosecution, obviously, of people that are human trafficking, purveyors, but then also what's on the books for the subscribers, I guess,
yes,
to this type of activity?
Well, that's a great question. So Mark Thompson, I still consider him a hero in my eyes. Again, he's that legislator from Clarion area. Mm-hmm. He was a Marine. He was a whistleblower. So, of course, they moved back to Wright County. And then he felt the calling to get involved with our state capital to help combat human trafficking. One of his first things he did in 2023 was initiate a bill that would change our laws. Because our laws for years here in Iowa, we were a Class D felony for human trafficking. So that means you could go steal a $1,000 TV, or you can go human traffic, and it's the same consequences. So you might get 2 years in jail, maybe, and you might get a $1,500 fine. But when we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry, $1,500 is not going to do any good to these people, right?
Yeah.
So it was just awesome. That went through his bill to change it to a Class A and a Class B felony. So it's a Class B, which is the same as like attempted murder, manslaughter, et cetera, if they're caught with someone over the age of 18. Mm-hmm. And this law applies to anyone who benefits. The Johns benefit from this, definitely. Yeah. We got money going to the traffickers. Johns are benefiting physically wise. So because of this whole transaction taking place, B goes towards anybody over the age of 18. Class A felony, same as murder, is applying to anyone who gets caught, who benefits, under the age of 18. So that passed through our House and our Senate, both sides of the aisle. Everybody was awesome, worked together. We got it passed, and our governor signed that into law May 16th of 2023.
Okay.
So great.
It's on the books.
I know, we were all excited.
Yeah.
2 years ago, but guess what, Troy? It took until this last February. So almost 2 years later to get our first case.
Prosecuted? Or
first case prosecuted.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep, we finally did. His name was Gerard Anderson. He was from Hiawatha. Mm-hmm. He lured a girl, a 17-year-old girl from Dubuque, on Facebook. He made a fake Facebook account. See, these kids, they think it's legit.
Yeah.
It was fake, and he posed as a girl on Facebook and started connecting with young girls, and then that was how it all started. So he got charged. His sentencing was just this last September 3rd, so a little over 2 months ago. Okay. He was sentenced to life in prison and no chance of parole.
Wow, yeah. That is the death penalty in Iowa. We don't have the death penalty, which I'm actually glad about that. So but a life without parole, that is the death penalty.
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, that sends a message.
Well, I think it should send a message,
and that could be part of the. I know it seems, and I'm not. I think 2 years is a long time, but if it's a different set of requirements legally. If you're going to put somebody away on a misdemeanor or a Class D felony, and then you get to a B or an A, you have to have your evidence. You have to have everything locked up pretty tight. I mean, it takes more to build a case, and then they don't want to, run the possibility of the case being thrown out or anything like this. So I think those cases probably take a little bit longer too, don't they?
Probably a little longer. I mean, I've become friends with so many law enforcement across the state, which they're just awesome. I'm a definitely back the blue kind of person.
Yeah.
But here's what's happening. I'll say the theme happening across the state. Cops are giving up. And why, they told me, they spend hours on these cases, just like you stated, to have the judges or prosecutors just dismiss the cases. That sends a different message to me.
It does, yeah, and that is true. Yeah, if you're going to, so when I was in the Army, active duty out in New York at Fort Drum, one of my tasks that I got to do was work with the CID as Criminal Investigation Division. Thought I was going to be an agent. You have to do on the job training to do that, and so I did that, and then I got sent to Korea for a year. So and I was waiting, and then I decided I'll come back to the National Guard in Iowa, in Algona actually, which is hilarious. It's not there anymore, but yes. I was an artillery guy there. But you had to do so much work to build a case, because CID only works in felony crime. So it's different than like military police or whatever the Navy version is of it. I know that was a TV show, but like we did so much work and so much effort, and sometimes what would happen is you'd have this massive case that took months, maybe even a year to put together, and then it's ready to go to the judge advocate, and it gets pushed back to reprimand by the chain of command within the battalion or the company even, or whatever, and it's like, well, what are we doing? Like, this guy's going to get off scot-free. I mean, maybe they lose their rank, maybe they lose whatever, but I mean, then they go back out into the world and do crazy things. So that to me is, I understand from a very small perspective how police officers must feel when they put all that effort. But that doesn't mean that you still have to do it, because eventually the wheel starts turning, and we get a little more traction on this type of thing.
And I'm going to pray that's what's happening here, because like now that we have some precedent set, okay, so now maybe it makes it a little easier for hopefully prosecutors and judges to say, we have a law to follow. It's clearly defined in that law what is trafficking, force, fraud, and coercion. And if you look at those three words, there's a lot of cases that fall under those three words that we should be charging. So
you say that again. So force,
fraud, or coercion.
So force, fraud,
correct,
or coercion.
Yes.
Did I say that right?
You did good.
Okay. Well, so then, because this brings to the element, I think the question in maybe some people's minds regarding human trafficking versus prostitution. Now, both are illegal.
That's correct.
Yes, they're both illegal, and so there's a libertarian side of this that says, look, prostitution isn't good, but when you make a law against that type of thing, do you create a black market? And have we created this for ourselves because we've made prostitution illegal? So are human trafficking, are they working? Are they making this money? Is it the people behind the kids and the people that are forced or coerced into doing these type of things that are making the money? And then is there a difference? The prostitution was like, well, it's like, oh, I'm just a freelancer, it's still illegal, and it's not morally good. It's not good for the family. And when families break down, communities break down, we all know that
But we have this stigma about prostitution. Yeah. So in this film, Gridshot, she does a great job of interviewing some people that are right from our law enforcement from Des Moines area.
Yeah.
More than likely, 99% of prostitutes are falling under human trafficking.
Are falling because of the coercion part.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the money, they're not keeping the money. Yeah. They're being put out in the streets to do prostitution when really in reality that money's just being handed back over to the trafficker.
Yeah.
And they're being held as slaves, whether it be in a house or maybe they're in their own home, but they're being forced to come in and out. I mean, I know a girl in Fort Dodge who she was a young girl, she was in high school, being forced to show up in hotels in Fort Dodge where she was being prostituted out by a trafficker.
And what is the power that they have over
for those kids?
Yeah.
That was one of the signs that we look for, is a second cell phone. They gave this girl a second cell phone.
Okay.
Told her that was hers to keep it hidden, but you better answer it at my beck and call. And
or else,
like a lot of times, what they'll do is sextortion. These kids are taking nude photos. A lot of kids are taking nude photos.
Okay.
They take a nude photo, and all it takes is...
Not funny. Can you imagine, like, the effort that we would have had to go through? And when I was growing up, if I wanted to take a nude photo of myself, there would be another person involved more than likely. Probably my friend Matt. And then we would have to, like a Polaroid or something. It would be after football practice. Yeah. And then so it's like, and then it's like, but you've got this one Polaroid, and then you're...
That's right. Thank goodness we didn't have
how is that even and now... go give that to Amy over there. And it's like this Polaroid. It's just a different, we live in a different world for sure.
We do.
So it's instant and it's digital and high definition and it's some degree expected, which is weird because that's not something that we would have done, No.
I'm so glad my rotary dial phone couldn't take photos.
You didn't have a teen line. Teen lines could take photos.
I didn't have that. I didn't have the luxury of having that. I mean, I barely got to stay on the phone. My dad would just unplug it from the wall, right? I mean, that was how it worked when we were growing up.
Yeah, they don't even know.
They don't even know.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me how many kids are taking them.
Yeah.
All it takes is kids don't realize they're out there forever. I mean, they're in this thing called the cloud.
Yeah.
Okay, traffickers find them. They trace them back to the individual. They send them back and say, if you don't do what we say, we will ruin your life by exposing these photos. So the kids think nothing of taking nude photos, but they don't think of the consequences, right? They're not mature enough to realize, well, if these pictures get out, they will ruin my life. Or that's what they perceive to happen,
Yeah.
right? So it's very simple for a trafficker to send these things back, or let's face it, there's some videos out there. And then they'll say, here's a second cell phone. You will do what I say. And so they had to come up with their excuses. And this girl from Fort Dodge was continually telling her mom she wanted to go stay overnight with friends.
Yeah.
Well, the mom doesn't think a whole lot of it because she's 16. She's, she wants to go hang out with friends instead of hang out with mom. Seems like a typical teenager. But yet when she found the second cell phone and got into it, all those texts were making this girl show up at hotels in Fort Dodge where she was prostituted out.
Oh, man. Yeah.
See, people don't realize this is happening all around us.
And and kids don't realize too. Like I would have to imagine. So the mom was horrified.
Oh, horrified.
And so this has worked out to some degree. To
some degree.
Yeah, but
We stopped. I mean, the girl's not being trafficked anymore.
And at some point, the mom had to have said, "I'm guessing, why didn't you just tell me?"
Yes.
That's the thing. If you took if you took a picture of yourself that's inappropriate, and somebody tries to leverage that, you need to just own up to it and say, yeah, go ahead, release.
Well, you know what, Troy?
Because I would look. I was a very pompous, egotistical teenager, so I would have been like, send it, get that Polaroid out there, let's see what happens. Nobody's doing that.
You thought it would pick you up some dates, probably.
I had hair and but that's very hard to do that, and it's hard to put yourself out there like that. We keep telling our kids like be bold, what is it, slay queen, and all that other stuff. We promote an entire lifestyle of, I don't know, Taylor Swift is wearing, barely anything and everybody loves her and all these, so we have this, and this has been going on forever, sex does sell. And so
but we've normalized it.
We have normalized it, and yet it still works. It's so weird to me that it still works where you can leverage somebody and say, I'm going to ruin your life with this photograph or this video. I could see how maybe some of that, I could see how it plays, but I just...
Well, Iowa, we have a law.
Yeah.
It's a felony charge if you're caught with a nude photo of yourself or your girlfriend, boyfriend on your phone and you're under the age of 18, it's considered child porn.
Yeah.
So you see, they can use that leverage that, if you don't do what we say.
Of yourself?
Even of yourself, because it's considered child porn.
I don't have any of that on my, and I'm also, but like it's just, on my.
You're sweating, Troy.
I am. Well, there's a fire going. The lights are. This new TV thing. I just. So they can be like a person of themselves. They can be prosecuted.
That's right.
For that. I don't know. Does that seem right?
I've been I think it should.
Okay.
The reason I do is because until we stop these kids from that type of behavior, sextortion is always going to exist, which then rolls right into trafficking.
Yeah.
Which rolls into prostitution and pornography. I mean, it all is connected.
Yeah.
So where do we start? Where do we start and stop? And I've been begging law enforcement all across the state. I'm like, would you just go arrest one kid from every school? If we just arrest one kid and they get charged with a felony charge for their nude photos, that might say a statement. Yeah. And you know what law enforcement told me? Stacy, if we go arrest one kid from every school, we will never get done. That's all we do because almost every kid has one on their phone.
Oh, I need to go back to the Polaroids, friends. That's just terrible.
I think we need to too. It's way greater than.
Yeah.
My eyes have been opened up so much because we probably come from the same era. We came from Playboy magazines. We didn't have like video porn on our phones.
Yeah.
So when you step up to how life has changed dramatically from the 80s and 90s to what these kids have access to today, it's alarming. And pornography really, during my presentation, the very end, I bring it home with this. Pornography is the gateway to human trafficking.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And that, from what I understand, that spiked after like 2008 because of the iPhone.
That's right. Because in 2 clicks, these kids have free porn. And a video is very different than, like I said, the magazine with the nude photos. Because the video plays over and over in your mind, creating a highly addictive dopamine drug.
Yeah. Yeah, that is absolutely correct. I mean, that is a huge problem across the world, but certainly here in the United States. I mean, and we have, men particularly have a issue with pornography.
Correct.
And so that's its own animal to try to, figure out. And I don't know if, my solution for most things is like, well, you probably need to get in church on this one, and I'm not sure how much government can fix everything, but I am interested in the platform that you're obviously now very familiar with, doing this for the last 3 years, and now you're running for state senate in a primary. So you're a Democrat. I'm just kidding. I know. Just giggle. I know you're not. So you're a Republican, and you're gonna run now in a primary, which would be next June.
Yep, June 2nd.
June 2nd. So tell us about that.
Sure. The last 3 years, I would say for sure, I've just been on the road so much that I started seeing gaps. Not just with human trafficking, I just started seeing gaps and listening to people and traveling all over and having lots of conversations. And Team Iowa, of course, has brought some of that to light with just some of our guest speakers. And I just started having seeds planted, even though I was resisting. I mean, I'll be honest, Troy, people were saying, like, you should run for an office, you should help with this. And I was like, there's no way in hell I was going to do something like that. I just thought that seemed crazy. And then I just, when God asks you to do something, you kind of do it. I mean, I felt like he's the one that kind of put that courage in me to go out and speak on such a terrible topic. But then I felt he said to me, Stacy, it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to go do something about it. So how do we do? What's the do? And I felt the next best thing was to run. I'm going to be honest. I feel like we have a mess down at our Senate, down at our Capitol. And I felt, well, what if I could go down there and be the voice for the people and be a voice for these victims and survivors that I've come across? Now, in order for me to do that, and of course, this is not the only thing I'm wanting to help fight, it comes with all the other things I've learned over the last few years, was I'd have to primary. And primaries, that's probably the number one question I get is, why would you primary? Why would you challenge another sitting Republican? And it's a good question, but I have an answer for that.
Okay.
Because if we don't start primarying people in our same party, then we're always just saying we're good enough. And Stacy doesn't believe we're ever good enough on anything because we should never get complacent. And so David Rowley is who I'll be challenging June 2nd. And David's a good man. I mean, I have nothing negative to say about David, but if we need people down there who are not.
Where's he from?
He's from Spirit Lake area, Dickinson County.
Is it Milford, or is he from? But in that area.
He'd have been in that area. Yep, the whole Dickinson County area.
Over by Okoboji.
He's over by Okoboji. And again, he's a nice guy. But I would say this, like, we are at a moment in time. Yeah. We cannot afford to have people sitting at our state capitol sitting on fences. And
you mentioned when we talked, lining this up, that he was, but he was appointed.
Yes.
So he
got into the role 6 years ago. And then after he got into that role, because it was an empty seat, then his first basically ballot, general election would have been in that fall of 22. And so he ran, in fall of 22. His name's already on the list. And I'm not saying that he didn't do anything, but that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, but he was uncontested in the party. Yeah. Was he contested by a Democrat?
That I'm not really sure on exactly for 22. And and I always tell people this, I think you need to understand the history of primaries, because primaries weren't back to our founding fathers. And I love history. I love going back to founding father things. That's why I was kind of admiring some of your history that you have here. And primaries were designed so that we, the people, that we would be a part of the nomination process.
Yeah. Parties should encourage primaries.
Right?
Yeah.
And for years, I'm going to be honest, I didn't probably place as much value on primaries in my younger years as I do today, because I didn't realize the importance. Like, I thought, well, the general election is the most important. Well, the general election, you're going to have a Democrat versus Republican. The primaries are, we the people get to select the best candidate. Yeah. Then they will be on the general election against the opposing party.
Right, yeah.
So I tell people now, like, if we don't get out there and vote in June for our primaries, you really should not say anything after that because you got to use your voice there.
Yeah, I don't think that the parties in general do a good job promoting the people within the party to run for office. I feel like that's really one of the primary jobs of the political party is to have a bench full of candidates that they are ready to run in all of these elected contests, whatever it happens to be. And I think what happens is they, just human nature is lazy, and they get to a certain point like, well, we've got, a person in this office. They won, and so now we can continue to raise funds, and now they're going to continue to stay. And it's just easier if we just build this war chest and have some other person come in. And that's always. Maybe that is a good solution, right? That's how you keep the same senators in office since 1980 or whatever, and God knows there's nobody else that could ever do. Like, look, Chuck Rice is a great guy. He's never missed a vote, and he's still kicking along at 90 or whatever he is, But it's like there's nobody in the state of Iowa in the Republican Party that could also do a good job and never miss a vote. And I think that maybe that is, heretical to say in the party, but it's like, I'm glad you're primarying. I feel like that is important to get that message out. So why is Dave Rowley? You say he's a good guy, and he's obviously in the same party. I don't know him. I've been met with him at different times in forums and school board type stuff when we're down at the state capitol and lobbying and that type of thing for school stuff. And he seems like a nice guy, but why, what do you have that he doesn't have? And don't give the Kamala answer that, well, I'm a woman, so what do you got?
That would not be my answer. Never. That would not ever be my answer. Cause I believe in this. It doesn't matter what sex you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. I believe in term limits, though, too, by the way.
Yeah.
I just think that you look at like Chuck Grassley's, and again, I think he's a great guy, too. But
we have term limits, though, don't we? Like, if we primaried effectively,
that's right.
We would have
then
it.
we would.
Yeah.
That's exactly what primaries are for. So you're right. I would say what I bring to the table is maybe it's my German. My dad was military. I got a little of that, hereditarily built into.
Your dad was German military? What?
Yeah. I know. Boy, that's going to go a wrong turn, isn't it? We're German. Yeah. And he was, my dad was drafted to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I think because of being the firstborn, there was just three of us girls. I was more with my dad all the time growing up. I was raised more as the boy to do the work around the yard and the house and cutting down trees and, all that. Well, I just think that got instilled in me that, he got drafted to go, work for our country, right? To protect our country and fight for it. He didn't have a choice. And so I look at it this way, I have a choice. And so I'm going to go try to fight for Iowans and especially Northern Iowa down at that Capitol. And I might not be wearing a uniform, but by gosh, I have a voice I can go use. So that's the first thing I always think of is I got that kind of built inside me that way. But I really will stand firm on things. I'm a Christian conservative. I'm just going to say it. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And I just believe that God gave us principles and values that we should never waver. Well, if you're down at that Capitol and you're sitting on a fence, whether it be the satanic altar that got put into our Capitol, or it's abortion, or it's, we're going to take away your land and give it to these millionaires for private gain. Those are principles that should never, ever be wavered on. In fact, if you are a senator or legislator down there, you plant your heels firmly and you say, there's no way I would ever vote for that.
Yeah.
Because then what you're saying for your constituents is, I could be on both sides of the fence. I could be pulled either direction, whether it be money or who knows what it is. And so I think I bring that to the table far greater. I think having the last 2.5, 3 years going out and meeting with all these people and seeing these gaps and all different things, I think God gave me a vision, but also the voice and name recognition. And I always love the prayer of Jabez, right? God, enlarge my territory, protect me and give me the wisdom. And I think that's exactly what he did.
So if you have, I think everybody goes to the Statehouse or Washington, D.C. when they first get, and it's the same desire to serve. There's probably a few that look forward to meeting with lobbyists and increasing their purse maybe, or whatever it happens to be. But I'd say in general, I want to give the benefit of the doubt that they all start the same way. I think, and I mentioned this to you when we met, you came to I didn't realize it was a Central Committee meeting. They must have been so surprised when they saw me walk in. Big Republican family, and I was not a Republican my whole life until like 21, and then I was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Like, you abandoned a lot of these principles that so I became a libertarian, and I really enjoyed that for like a year, and then I was like, ugh, these guys are the most disorganized people I've ever met in my life, So I feel like a typical Protestant, actually, to be honest with you. Just like, I don't like this, so I'm going to go do this right now. So I do the same thing. Just Christian conservative is where I'm at, because that's where you base things on. And obviously you find a lot more of that in, on the Republican side. But but it's still a party. And so you get elected, you go down there. My concern is that, I've had people tell me that got elected that say, Troy, I agree with you on this, and we're I want to do that, but I got to get some things here. I got to get to certain spots before I can do what I want to do. And it's like, I know, but the damage you do in between now and then, like, how much is that going to affect everything else? You mentioned the millionaires or the billionaires that are lining their pockets on other people. You're talking about the pipeline.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a big deal for Kossuth County, big, long county. It's twice the size of a lot of counties in Iowa. And it runs through Kossuth County?
It's going to run through, well, they want to, right? We're going to try to stop it. But District 5 that I'm running for, it's going to be going through 3 of those counties.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's
a big deal to us.
And District 5 is, let me see if I can do this. Dickinson, Emmett, Kossuth, Winnebago,
Palo Alto. And then a little chunk of Clay.
Okay. Yeah, just a tiny bit of Clay. Not Spencer, but just a little corner there. Okay, very good. And so you're from Algona, you're right in the middle.
I'm right in the middle.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And how has that been going too? So, like, are you actively campaigning? I mean, you obviously were at the Central Committee in Winnebago County.
Yes.
I didn't have any business there after you. I just came to meet you because I saw you were going to be there.
There's a reason you came.
Well, that's why I came. I was like, I'll meet her and see what she's all about. Because I like it when people are going to primary. And and then I was like, well, you're done. I'm done. I guess I'm going to go. Whatever. So I don't know what they did.
No, I think that was awesome that you came. And yeah, I think it's going great. The support has been like almost overwhelming. Mm-hmm. I knew that people were planting seeds along the way, but again, I'm going to say the name recognition out in the last 3 years, it's just been, I just had no idea I was campaigning without knowing I was campaigning. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So here I am out speaking and trying to bring all kind of things to light, but also I do a lot of leadership programs across the state. So all of this was just lining up. And I really think that's, when you look back, always you think, oh, this is what God was intending. I just had no idea that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
So the support's been awesome. People are just definitely not only helping me financially, they're trying to help me out by saying, hey, I'll do your website, or I'll make these cards for you, or I'll do whatever I can. So that's been awesome.
Yeah.
Because they know that we have now from now until June 2nd to really kind of hit it hard. We're going to do a big concert April 3rd. I'll come back to that.
Okay.
So we're going to do a concert to let's think outside the box. Let's not do the norm. Mm-hmm. And I think that also shows that when somebody goes down to the Senate or to the state capitol, if they're already thinking outside the box, they're going to think outside the box when you get down there. So I think it's been awesome. It's been, it's great and it's overwhelming. And I don't want to say scary, but like after I announced, I was like, oh, there's no turning back now. Because it's like going to the lion's den down there.
For sure. And it's not like you started in the House. But I think Trump went right to the presidency, so who cares? Just like flip all that stuff. And there is that office, the show, The Office, where state senator. She's a state senator. And you just refer to you as the senator. And, so that's exciting. And when you look back on things, that's when you say, I stole this from Yellowstone, or maybe it was one of the other Yellowstone offshoots, probably one 1883, I'm guessing. Anyway,
I love those.
And she says, and I think it's true, that God answers your prayer in 3 ways. He says, yes, not yet, or have something else in mind for you. And that's, I'm always reluctant to say for myself that I feel that God is calling me to do something, because then you got to be careful because you're like, who's actually talking to you, you know?
That's right.
So I felt in retrospect, you can look back in 50 years and go, oh, that makes way more sense now,
That's
you know? And so that is why history is fun. And so you said you've been speaking for 25 years, but you haven't been, you've been speaking for 25 years, but you've had a variety of like things going on. So tell us a little bit about that life that you've had. That
life's been crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been crazy. I grew up in small town Sexton, that big metropolis. You know that town?
Oh, I know it. I know their restaurant, bar, biker spot. Not because I know my bikes, Suspicious. They don't only take cash or check, which is weird. But okay, go on. Yes.
So growing up in small town, went to Algona High School,
Okay.
I was going to get the heck out of town because most people, when you're in high school, you're thinking, I'm just going to get away because there's nothing to do here.
Yeah.
And I was only gone for about 3.5 years down in Ames, and then we moved back to Whittemore. But I would just say this, I never anticipated that I was going to be an entrepreneur or serial entrepreneur, we'll call it that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just God kept opening doors without me knowing it back then. Now I look back and it makes pretty much a common sense now. But at one time I had 5 businesses. And I never anticipated that, but that's what happened. I opened up a salon and spa first in 1996.
Okay.
And then pretty soon it evolved to where that was in Whittemore. And I wanted to have a bigger salon and spa because back in the early 2000s, that word was really big, spa. That was when it was kind of coming out.
Yeah.
And so the only way for me to have that was I had to build my own building because I couldn't find one in Algona that kind of suited what I was needing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to this is a little fun story, but I went to my old, now I'm saying old, he's going to be like, thanks a lot. But I went to my industrial arts teacher from high school, Gene Hunt. He had Tri-Square Construction on the side of teaching. Mm-hmm. And I went to him and said, hey, would you mind building me a building? I was just going to do a little 3-plex. And when he started thinking about the vision of what I was proposing, he said, let's do it together. So we became business partners and we built that whole strip mall shopping plaza called Eastland Hill Plaza across from Fairway on Highway 18.
Yeah.
In Algona.
East side of Algona.
On the east side of Algona.
You bet. Mm-hmm.
And so we became partners at that time. Now I'm the sole owner, but at that time we were partners. And of course it's filled. We get it filled right away. Well, you don't really anticipate that as businesses come and go, whether they be ill-managed or it was no longer a need. And I'd be sitting there with an empty storefront. And panicking, to be honest, because the bank still owns me, right? So the bank still owns me, and I'm thinking, I need something to bring in rent. And then my community mind would go to, what does Algona need, and what could fit in that building that would bring in rent? And this is literally how it would start working for me. So my mind is always like, what do we need? What can the community benefit from? And then what can fill a void? And so that's how I end up opening up multiple businesses. I had a coffee shop. I had a women's boutique.
Yeah.
Now I have a consignment store.
Okay.
Fitting into voids that we had, but the town of Algona needed it. Mm-hmm. And so that's how that's kind of
like your own chamber of commerce.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was really active in the chamber.
Yeah. What do we need?
Yeah. What do
I'll
we need?
start that too.
Yeah, and I'm a risk taker. I mean, what person would start all those businesses without having some risk, underlying? But I live by one thing. I live by the PCW paper, and people always wonder what that is. It's the pros and the cons, but most people go with whatever list is longer. I go with the W, and the W is the worst case scenario.
Okay.
And then I live by one line. If you can take the worst, you take the risk.
That's great.
So, okay, so there you go. If that helps me with my Senate race, I think it will, because that's how I'm going to look at things when I'm down there is PCW. Okay, what's the worst case scenario?
Yeah. What's the worst case if I don't go along with this this guy, this group that really wants me to, and they say, oof, you probably might not get elected if you don't do this. And then what do you say? Worst case? Is that the worst case?
That's not the worst case. And in fact, there's people down there who have made it a career, right? And they're like, what if I don't get elected next time? Here's what I'm going to tell everybody. When I go down there for the 4 years, if I don't get elected after those 4 years because I either couldn't be bought or I didn't do my job, then my time is up.
Yeah.
If it's God's will, it's going to happen. If it's not, it's not. So I could care less. I'm going to tell you that right now. You get me down there, I'm going to work as hard as I can. I'm not going to be bought. I call it trafficking. I'm not going to be trafficked down there.
Right.
And so if that's the case, I'm not going to get trafficked.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, and in 4 years it's up, well, then you know what? That's maybe it was my little season that God wanted me to do it. So I think this entrepreneurship then kind of flourished. But along this whole way, I had also started ICM seminars. And that was a part of the speaking business.
Okay.
I hired a tutor back in 2003 he was a national speaker, and I asked him if he would tutor me for a year to become not only a better speaker, but how do I put a program together?
Okay.
And he didn't know me. So when he said, well, I'd be willing to do it, but here's the deal. Like, if I'm going to do this, you got to give 100%. And I said, you don't know me that well.
Yeah.
Because I was raised that you give 110%.
Okay.
You do whatever the other people aren't willing to do. And that's kind of what my dad taught me. So that's kind of how I started looking at it. And so after that training of a year of tutoring, I was speaking all over the state, mainly to like women's conferences, leadership conferences, all different kinds of topics. But that's kind of what got me started.
Like talking about being an entrepreneur and...
I was doing risk-taking classes. The number one that I got hired for the most was who you are makes a difference. Just really realizing that, we're here. What are you doing with it?
Yeah.
And what you do impacts other people.
That's amazing, and you get paid. I mean, it's
paid
just
for those.
You get paid for
I
those.
don't get paid for these.
Not for the ones you're doing now. You don't get paid for the.
don't.
Yeah, but you get paid for the. I always same thing with like I don't do other people's podcasts because there's like things you can get on that are circuits, and you want to and you gotta you have to promote yourself as an expert, and I'm like, I mean, I don't think I'm an expert on anything. I have a variety of interests, and I've done a variety of interesting things. I don't have, I'm not going to claim I'm an expert,
As long as you do it 50 miles from home, you are.
Is that the trick?
That's the trick.
That's what it is. Yeah. Well, that sounds about right. I mean, I used to doctor my resume a little bit when I was 16, to get a job in radio. Probably could work again in podcasting, I suppose. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So you've been doing all of that, but you're also, so you're married and farmer, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So tell me about that.
So I'm married to a farmer, and we are kind of the Brady Bunch. I have 2 kids. He has 5.
Okay.
So we kind of got 7 kids between ages 20 and 30.
7 is enough.
Yes, 7's enough. Yeah. Yeah, remember that. I think it was 8 is enough.
It is.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I think it was 8.
Yeah.
But they're all grown and they're out of the house. And so to us, it's like looking at, how can we still influence them, but also help this generation, right? That's coming along. So my husband farms, and we live out in the middle of the country, and I love it. I love the serenity out there. He does construction as well, besides of farming.
Okay.
But it was because of living on the farm.
He was doing construction because you decided to build a thing, or when did that start?
No, he's been doing construction. That's what he went to college for.
Oh, okay.
So he went to trade school for construction. I went to trade school for cosmetology.
Okay.
So we're both trade school grads.
Yeah.
We're proud of that.
Yeah.
In fact, I think more kids could do.
Yeah.
Kids, go do trade school,
That's
right? That's what we want to say. And so he's been doing that his whole life besides farming, because face it, in the 80s when he graduated, farming wasn't so good.
Right, yeah.
So always having that supplemental career on the side has always been essential. And with him doing that, and of course my family, my parents grew up in Palo Alto County.
Okay.
So my grandparents were farmers and my great-grandparents, and they came from Germany. And so knowing that we had a lot of farm, and there still is family farm over in Palo Alto, it's just this whole eminent domain thing just has stirred me up.
Oh, yeah.
Because not only us living on the farm, but I can't imagine somebody coming to us and saying, hey, we're going to take away so much of your land. We're going to put up this dangerous pipeline that, if it has a leak, you could be dead in 5 minutes. And then we're going to make sure that the only people benefiting from this are the millionaires who actually put money into this pipeline in the first place.
And it's a rook. It's a rook.
100%.
It does not exist without, its business model does not exist without subsidies.
That's right.
So the concept that you're going to sell carbon credits, which is the money behind this, is that we can exchange one thing for another. So there's money from that. So those subsidies then we build this incredible pipeline that goes from point A to point B. I think it goes to Illinois is the idea, and they're going to drop it into the earth.
Sequester it into North Dakota.
Is that where it's going? It's going to, no, it's going to North Dakota? Okay. So we're going to sequester it in North Dakota. And you don't have to do that. Like if you're really wrapped around the axles about carbon, then you can actually pelletize carbon in place and spread it on the ground, and actually makes pretty decent fertilizer, which would be only if we had enough, I don't know where there's agricultural ground nearby us to be able to use it in that way. But, instead they're going to take land. And the thing about that is from the way I understand it, I think it is the Public Utilities Board or whatever, Iowa Public Utilities Board. And is there 3 people on that?
That's correct. That are appointed by the governor.
They are appointed by the governor. And they're all supposedly Christian conservative Republican types. So how do we get to that? And the eminent domain thing. Now this is where I still am pretty libertarian, because I'm like, how are you even thinking that you can take it for really any use? But how is this supposed to be a public use? A Republican has to buy into the novel concept that is inaccurate, that it is a public good to buy into this greenhouse gas, this carbon. I'm not denying that there's climate change. Duh, there is, but this is just we're being hoodwinked.
It's a boondoggle.
It is a boondoggle.
100%.
It's taxpayer dollars put into these businesses. They make the business. They get the investors. They would not invest if there wasn't all this money out there in subsidy.
They saw a prize. They saw a huge prize.
Yes.
And that's why they're fighting tooth and nail to get to that prize, because they have a lot to gain from it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not against, like, if it was a natural pipeline coming through that was going to benefit the people. Well,
like natural gas or something?
Yeah, like natural gas. Sure. I mean, could I sit back and say, sure, because that could probably pay for itself. And of course, you're going to get people after listening to this, they're going to say, well, there's a lot of things that are subsidized right from the government. Well, that's true, but one's as dangerous as this?
Yeah. Well, no. Well, I mean, and I'm going to leave you alone on the subsidy thing, because I know that you're farm family and everything. I come from a farm family too. My family grow grain, and they grow unique grain that nobody else does. They grow corn and soybeans. I don't know if you've heard of that or not. It's so weird that prices are what they are when everybody's growing the same thing. There's no market value to me in the same product. It's the same number 2 yellow corn. My family, they have arguments about this all the time. So God bless them. I'm glad everybody else is doing that. I'm going to do something different. Not with grain, but there's farm subsidies, so we won't even get into that, because that is, again, still pretty libertarian on that. I'm like, why do you need those? And small farmers don't. Farms, this is small business. Small farmers actually can survive and weather most of the problems that come through, because they're just better at that stuff. It's the big farms that lobby for the subsidies. It's the big farms that want a small number of people have half the amount of land as small family farms.
That's right.
And so I like family farms, but they use that family farm concept, they being, the larger entities, the larger corporate farms, they use that, small family farm concept in the American's mind, kind of like Iowa Nice, to trick everybody into thinking like, ooh, we don't have these things. A lot of these people are going, no, I think the small family farms, they will be able to weather a lot of the stuff without it, but that's a different
But they'll be extinguished if we don't do something.
I think, I'm not an expert on this. You are, because you've lived it longer than I have. I just came back from, being a soldier for a long time. So I look at it from a different perspective, which I guess you could say is pretty subsidized now that you mention it. I mean, military's pretty subsidized. It's like, I still get my retirement check. Thanks, government shutdown doesn't affect me. Found that out. So I just don't, I like, what has to be done is probably at some point farming. There used to be a time where farmers did compete, where your cows or your pigs or your sheep or your chicken or turkey, whatever, or your corn or your grain or your sorghum or your wheat or your barley was better than your neighbors, and you could see that it was better, and there was value to that. And so farmers did compete, and that's why county fairs were so magical, because you got to see really independent businesses producing a product with which they had great pride, and they were selling it as a commodity. And so now farming in the last 50 years, my lifetime, has really gone to be something very different, where it's all streamlined. Mm-hmm. And Iowa State will tell you, for the last 30, 40 years, farmers, you want to be successful, you have to learn how to, find it on the margins, Meanwhile, all of the inputs are doing just fine, they're not working in the margins. So it seems, I don't know, it seems a little collective farmy to me to have the same, I'd like to see it where farmers were just, we're growing different products and doing that. But that's also harder.
I know.
You put hogs in confinement because it's just easier for the farmer. You can grow more, fewer die. You're not moving them around from paddock to paddock. Same thing with
It was easy
cattle,
to sell to the farmers.
chicken. Oh, for sure.
It's easy to sell.
Yeah. So,
I mean, who doesn't want easy? You can make more money.
yeah.
You can use the manure on your land. I mean, there are some good things.
Well, 1,000 acres used to be what? A 3 or 4 person, 5 person,
Oh, but not anymore.
now it's 1 person. 1,000 acres, 1 person can do that. Maybe occasionally need some hands. Yeah. So we, and I'm not going to, wax poetic about a time that I wasn't even really a part of other than the county fair thing back in the 80s. You bet, good times,
Little 4-H.
Yeah, 4-H. I wasn't even FFA. I should have been. I had to build a fence this summer and learn how to do that at 50. It's a great fence, but man, times have changed.
It's a good workout.
It was a good workout.
Yeah.
Wrecked a lot of jeans on that experience. Yeah. But anyway, so back to you. We talked about some different things.
Yeah.
What are some of the other ideas that you have as you roll into this primary June 2nd?
Well, another big thing, which was a gap according to what I've seen in the last 2.5 years, with the pornography issue. Mm-hmm. So we had an awesome senator down there, Kevin Alons. He's from Sioux City area.
Okay.
He tried initiating a bill that would help, and this is a baby step. So I do not think this is a fix-all by any means. I think it's one little tiny step, but having proof of ID for pornography so that no one under the age of 18. Okay. Now, anybody listening to this, you're going to say, really? How's that going to be possible? But it's a baby step, right?
Well, Canada, the UK, Europe, they're doing that right now. It's already being done.
And Texas is trying to do it. So we're trying to get... I think that would be great. Now, it didn't get anywhere this year because we had so much of a mess down at our Senate when it came to the eminent domain fight this year that a lot of these other little bills, which I don't consider them little, I consider them big when it comes to human trafficking or the pornography issue, they didn't even make it to the floor. So we need to make sure that we're still fighting for those principles and values of what could save our kids against some of this other stuff as well, and quit making,
Isn't that interesting? It's like they always say follow the money. And it's almost like you can do the exact opposite when you want to find the good bills that are down at the Statehouse. Where there's no money behind it, those are probably the ones that should be enacted.
They should be the ones first in line.
But where there is the most money, that is where the biggest fights are. So last year, you mentioned it was the eminent domain, a lot of money behind that, a lot of people boisterous about that. The year before that, it was AEA and the schools, a lot of money behind that. Granted, state money, but also private school money and different places had a lot of AEA had a lot of money, and the people that were really advocating for most of those meetings were actually the AEA directors that were, probably duplicative. So I hadn't thought about that before. I mean, whatever is being loudest is probably where the most money is being spent.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And those are probably the ones that are the worst ideas maybe that's why I've spent so much money. Yeah.
Yes. Because people have so much to lose or to gain, right? If that's why the money's
do you think that if something like that were to make it further, do you think that they would, that there would be, all of a sudden it would become a money trail issue where people start saying, oh, no, why would you want to do, what is
I think the argument is going to be against that will be there's so much child porn being put out there today and consumers of it, even right here in Iowa, like we talked about. If it starts becoming an issue where even child porn, which should be completely eliminated, and kids can't even get porn on their phones to be watched, to manipulated, I think there's going to be some money that's coming behind that to fight it, because then that's going to impact their pocketbooks, the traffickers or the people creating child porn.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I do want to share with people because they don't realize this. One of our youngest victims that was rescued in Des Moines for child pornography was a 3-month-old little girl.
Terrible.
And I know, I don't even want to talk about it because it's just so sickening, but people don't even get this.
Yeah,
this
but that's
is
what
happening.
they want. Yes, don't talk about it. Don't talk about that. So you have to bring it up.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we got to wait. I feel like we got to peel this veil off of people's eyes is what I feel like we have to do. So pornography is a big deal to me. I think because that is the gateway to human trafficking, we need to address it. If we can if the federal government can shut down TikTok for 12 hours, how are we not shutting down these other sites?
Yeah. Well, they could have shut down TikTok permanently, but some deals were made there too. So interesting.
Yeah. I think that's just something for people to ponder. Like, can these things be done? 100%. Is there money behind the people fighting it? 100%.
Yeah. So it would be more. Yeah. It's I don't want to reveal anything, too many things, but like back in the day, if you wanted to buy a magazine, a gentleman's magazine of certain, you had to go to the gas station and you had to have that awkward moment where you're like, take this, that Snickers bar, and one of those, and whatever. And there's like this whole ordeal, like and that alone was enough,
That's right.
And you if. I'm just saying hypothetically. I like, it never happened to me, but like, let's say you walk in and this is maybe on your mind, and then the person that's behind the counter is like, like former Sunday school teacher or something like that. You're like, oh, not today. So, but there is none of that. There is no Sunday school teacher, first of all, in many people's lives anymore, but there's also no Sunday school teacher working behind, the phone.
Controlling your device.
Wouldn't that be great, though?
Oh, my gosh. I would love that.
It was like grandmas and Sunday school teachers had to be like, what do you want to purchase?
Yes.
Can you imagine?
It'd be great if they were the ones running all that behind. I would love
great.
that.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
Maybe that's a use for AI. It's like it's
we need something positive for AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
I
kind
got
of
some AI positive things for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk about that sometime because some of it seems frightening to me. But
Yeah.
so got those two things are kind of top of my brain.
Okay.
I know you and I briefly when we met, we talked a little bit about property taxes.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for ideas because when I look at a couple of things. First of all, the massive inflation of property taxes, it just seems to keep going up. I mean, I'm impacted, you're impacted.
Yes.
What do we do? How do we stop that, control that? And then I see people who are on fixed incomes, let's say seniors or just people who are literally on fixed incomes because they need help. They're losing their homes. Like they probably purchased it, owned it for years.
Yeah.
And now they're being stripped away from it because they can't afford, I call it high dollar rent on their property taxes.
Yeah.
And there has to be a solution. I don't have the perfect answer. So I keep, as I'm talking to people out in the public, I keep wanting to get ideas so that we can compile these ideas and come up with the best solution. But I think it's a crime that we're charging all this money. And then that kind of comes back to me thinking property taxes, they're being split between state and local. Well, pretty soon I'm afraid that the state's going to say they're going to pull all the control away from local and say that they control everything when it comes to anything that property taxes is going to. And I think that's wrong as well. We can't strip local control away because they're the ones that know their community best. And that's why you elect people for your supervisors and your city councils. So I just think there's a lot that we need to sit at the table about when it comes to property taxes, but I'm all in favor of trying to either lower them or eliminate them.
Yeah. Well, I like eliminate, but that is probably not likely to happen. We have lowered our income tax, which I think is great in the state of Iowa, and I think the goal is to get to zero. I think it's at 4%. For a lot of folks, but it's getting down to that 0 point, and that's fine. I like that there's no income tax. Florida seems to do pretty well. There's other states that have no income tax. Virginia's been that way for a long time, but they also, they supplement that either then with sales tax and of course property tax. And of course, property tax in Florida is a little bit different than property tax in Iowa. My wild idea that I suggested to you at that central committee meeting, and I think it blew the wigs off of some of the folks that are there, because it just is not something that's considered. You first have to eliminate the assumption that the government is spending all of, it needs more money to spend, and that all of the programs that the government has are absolutely essential, because we know that that's clearly not the case.
No.
So if you get past that assumption, that everything that the government is doing is just not enough, then we can go somewhere. But for me, what property taxes, if you have to have property tax, if you have to pay rent on property that you already have purchased, the only proper way to do that is to pay it. The only fair, true way to do that, it's not fair actually, it's an unfair way to do it, but it's the right way to do it, is to base it on what the purchase price of the property was originally. So you talk about fixed income folks, if they bought that farm back in 1955, that's the price. Whatever the price was in 1955, I don't care what the local weirdo county assessor thinks that it happens to be worth today in 2025. It's irrelevant. That's what they purchased. That's the last time. That's the only thing that you can collect that on. You cannot put a tax. I'm not going to assess your weirdo valuation, and then I'm going to manipulate it from the Statehouse on who gets a little bit more. Maybe I do a little bit less. There's a little bit less for farmers because they're screaming really loud, or a little bit more. It's just like, this is what you paid. Now, to me, that is also based on a few other assumptions, and that is called the purchase price property tax concept. California does that. That was their Prop 13 that they did do many years ago, and in many cases, it is considered buyer beware kind of process. And but then again, it's also based on, California spends a ridiculous amount of money, and a lot of it is tied up in pensions and a lot of all that stuff. So like how they spend the rest of their money is, and when you have knuckleheads that are at the Statehouse, and hopefully that's not you should be able to go down there and say, well, this isn't what government does. We're not doing that. We're going to cut here. We're going to do get it. That's what every Republican says they're going to do. Right. And I mean, if it ever happens,
they say the same song
because the research that I've done, I mean, there is specifically in across the state, but then even in your district. So what would be District 5? What would the fall up? And there is a shortfall. There is a shortfall if you were to do that just based on what the amount of money that would change. So like you're rolling back people's property taxes to whatever they initially paid for it. When that happens, whatever your price is set, and let's say, we set it at 4% or something like that across the board. Well, 4% on your property valuation from 1955 is going to be very different from your neighbor who just bought their property right next to you. They bought that farm in 2020 for a lot more. They're going to pay 4% on that, and it's basically the same soil. Irrelevant, don't care. That's the way it works. That's why it's not fair in people's minds. But it also, I think in Iowa, we have a problem with people moving either out of state or moving to Des Moines or big cities. And I like being a small town. I like living in the country. I think it's the way to be. And as a small town school board member, I like people to stay in towns. So one thing that the purchase price property tax concept does is it keeps people. They choose to be less mobile.
The grass doesn't look always so green on the other side. No. Then
if you're like, I'm going to sell my house here because I'm going to go live here, instead of improving the house that I have, because right now if you improve the house, the assessor drives by and says, oh, your house is worth more. Now we get to charge more. We didn't do anything for you. We didn't have nothing to do with it. You spent your own money on it. Now we're going to take more money. Like you made it easier. You
wanted a nicer house. You got penalized.
Imagine buying a piece of property that's a piece of crap and you're going to buy it because you know that it's not very good. And you're not going to, so that's just the purchase price that you bought it. And then you turn around and you turn it into this, knock down the thing, put a whole new thing on there. Or Stacy Besch comes in and puts a whole mini mall right there.
Yes.
That's amazing. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant what you put on it. And so that's why I like it. I think it keeps people in their homes for a longer period of time. Instead of an average of 7 or 8 years where they move, it keeps 13, 14 years, maybe longer that they go in one community. That's good stabilization. It's certainly economically excellent stabilization for the taxpayer. They know exactly what they're paying year to year. They don't have to guess. And here's the exciting part too, that eliminates some of that shortfall. I'm giving you, if I ever ran for office, this is what I was going to do, but I'll just give it to you. Maybe you'll do a better speaker. You'll do a better job. And it's just, there is a shortfall. And part of the shortfall is because we're assuming that we can't make any cuts, but you absolutely can make cuts. We have 99 county assessors coming after you. And that is a lot of money. A lot of money. How much money? About $55 million a year just from the state of Iowa. That's what we're paying. And if you include their offices, it's over $150 million that we're paying to these duplicative services. So if you do centralize that, and this is where I bring in AI, you use AI to just immediately assess recent purchase prices and affix the property. You know exactly what everybody's getting. And by the way, so do the banks that are holding the mortgages. Mm-hmm. Our system is based on borrowing so that you can continue to, it's just going to keep rolling into your mortgage and you're going to continue to pay your taxes through your mortgage. But if you're, if you don't like banks, you just kind of, you don't play that game. And so it's a good, that's my idea. It's called the property tax, the purchase price property tax system. And it will and this is coming from a school board member, and people's hair is going, that's why I'm bald. Like the school board members across Iowa, administrators are like, no, because that's how they get their money.
That's right. That's how they get their money.
Yeah. And there is a shortfall. But if you do that, the shortfall, after you make those changes and you assume certain things, cleaning things up and centralizing, $115 million a year. That's the difference.
That would help us.
$115 million is our shortfall. Mm-hmm. So so do you think that we could come up with $200 million a year that we could shave out of our budget beyond what I've already, shaved out? And by the way, I know it seems like I really did a lot of research on that, but that all was done last night in about 45 minutes, just working through Chat GPT, because that information is all public, and it can do in seconds. It's like I said, I would ask it questions and say, assume this, what would happen this, how much would this, what would it be in Palo Alto County? How about just District 5? What about Winnebago County? How about the entire state? And what if we eliminated 9? And what is the assessor rate? And then you can, get in further with it.
Information.
Yeah, I kept it for you if you're interested.
Hey,
but
thanks.
Yeah.
I would love it because
Yeah.
again, I'm trying to collect all this different ideas.
Yeah.
I had a man over from Okoboji, and he had a good point. He said to me, most of the people in Okoboji, it's not their year-round home.
Yeah.
So, you got property taxes there, but he's like, but what about all the people that just come to shop?
Mm-hmm.
And I did like his idea too, is that, what if we eliminated property taxes and you did across the board, you raise sales tax?
Mm-hmm.
Because then it goes for the shopper. We don't charge sales tax on groceries, so we're not hurting the person that way. But if you truly wanted to shop and you're saving money on property taxes, you're probably willing to go shop more.
Sure.
And so I would thought sales tax would be a good idea.
Yeah, and school boards have the ability to do that. Counties have the ability to do that. You can put your
Local option.
Yep, local option sales tax are really good. That will create a variety of different rates in different communities and things like that. But I think that's where local control does matter.
Yes.
It certainly makes a big difference. But here's the other thing too. On if somebody's going to Okoboji and they don't necessarily live there all the time. Here's the thing about Okoboji, like that school district, they don't get as much state aid because of their property tax valuations is very rich. So it is weighted. Well, so is that. That is how it is with the school districts across the state of Iowa. That money is shared. That's what SSA does. Nefariously, as a rural person, I will say, go ahead, Des Moines, keep moving around. But we'll stay put here in the small town, God's country, where things are intended to be, So go ahead, keep moving around, because we'll keep pushing out that sales tax. So they may not like it in Polk County, in Lynn County, but I don't know.
I think it's another good solution, at least to look at it that way. But
it'll definitely cause some. Well, we'll see.
I don't know.
It'll cause some issues for sure, because that'll be the big option is like, well, there will be a shortfall. But that is the same thing that happened with state supplemental aid, and there's a shortfall and changing our taxes as it is. So
and change is always difficult for a lot of people. Yeah. So that is one thing I would tell people, like, just come to the table with different ideas, because you're going to get people who are not going to like every idea. There's going to be something out there, but I think collectively there's no reason we can't work on that together. Yeah,
and there's going to be somebody that has worked really hard in the same way that you're going to work hard on human trafficking and the pornography stuff, and you're going to be like, there's somebody, that worked really hard, 15 years ago, is passionate about a thing that we have to look at again and say, is that the best? Is that a program that we need? And so can we eliminate that? Not talking about eliminating what you're working towards, but somebody just as passionately worked hard to create a program that costs the taxpayers money, and do we get the benefit on our dollar?
It's time to kind of go through all those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I'm sure there's a lot more we could talk about. It's a little bit of time, 8 months before the primary. Is that right?
Correct.
8 months
about that.
in that time frame. And you've got a concert coming up in April. Let's talk about that.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So there was a man that reached out to me, Trey Taylor. So he was from Colorado originally, and he got founded by Dolly Parton.
Okay.
And I love Dolly.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, and Trey's just this cool guy. So Trey moves to Nashville.
Yeah.
And so he's in Nashville, and he just is a true American patriot, conservative Christian.
Okay.
He then loves old school music. He
right.
just wants everything to be back to, like, it's kind of like how I say, I want to go back to Little House on the Prairie.
All
it's
right.
kind of the same way.
Roll down that hill.
Yeah. Don't be a Nelly. Don't be a Nelly.
She's great, though. She's actually I've heard her on other podcasts.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Trey just he plays old school music, from, Glenn Campbell to Roy Orbison to just, Ronnie Millsap.
Oh, yeah.
He just has his guitar and plays in Nashville and does a great job. He reached out to me, and he said about 30 people across the country that are running for seats, and said, you're exactly the kind of person we need fighting in our country. And he said, I would put on a concert for you.
Let's do it. That sounds great.
And I said, I'll be honest though, Troy, at first I was scratching my head like, this seems too good to be true, right?
Yeah.
Until
this podcast, to be honest.
Kind of like this podcast. Troy seems too good to be true. Yeah. You do a great job, buddy. So Troy, now you got me saying Troy. So Trey, anyway, said, you find the venue, we will come, and we want to kick it off. And so there's going to be some VIP tickets that we're going to sell. So it's going to be on Friday, April 3rd, and we're going to have it at the Barn in Okoboji.
Okay.
Which is a cool venue. Like, that's an awesome venue. He's going to be there with his guitar, and he's just going to be singing old school country.
Yeah.
He's going to talk a little bit about just patriotism, which we should. We should all be proud of our country.
Absolutely.
And we'll have a meet and greet with VIP ticket sales. So the only tickets I think that we're going to do is just the VIP ones. That'll be a meet and greet and ahead of time. And then we're going to do literally open to the public, free will donation. And all of this money, then Trey donates the entire thing to the campaign.
Wow. And that is April what?
April 3rd.
April
It's
3rd.
a Friday.
A Friday night at the Barn
In Okoboji.
Okoboji.
Write this on your calendar.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. That is awesome. And is it him, or he brings in some people he's got?
It's him and another guy.
Okay.
That's it. And so they bring, it's literally the old school of sitting on a stage with a guitar. You don't have to have all this, great stuff to make you good. It's just old school, and great guy.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled. I'm honored. I'm honored that he said, you're the type of person that we need.
Yeah.
And so we're going to put on this concert.
Well, that is, and how many does the Barn hold?
I'm not really sure. I don't know. If we get between 300, 400, 500 people, I'm going to do a cartwheel.
All right. Well, let's see if we can just pack that. I don't know what the auditorium holds.
I don't know exactly how many it holds, but
we'll get it done. You said that you haven't done an audience of 1,000 yet.
No, I've not. Not for human trafficking. I've not.
Yeah. So anything else that you've done a big audience for?
No, I would say, my biggest audience for human trafficking has been about, 620 people. And I think if we get, if we can top that at this concert, that would
How about it? Let's do that.
Should we make it a goal?
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Better be there.
I will. That
Mark it on
sounds
your
fun.
calendar.
April 3rd.
Yeah, Friday, April 3rd.
2026. Yeah, I'll be around.
Shoot, put on your cowboy boots, get your cowboy hat on. Let's
Just
do
got back
it.
from Nashville, actually.
Oh, well, then you're going to fit right in.
That's right. We were gone last weekend, and so we were in Nashville. And we didn't see Trey, but we saw a lot of other great folks, and so a good time. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And again, I just want to thank everybody for their support. Just whatever part that you want to do. I do have a website, and the website is stacyforiowa.com.
There it is. stacyforiowa.com.
Yeah, just get right on there. They could donate. They can just check out who I am. The rest of my platform that, we don't have time to talk about everything today, but the rest of that platform is on there. It continually grows, and I just want to thank you, Troy, for just having me today. It was great. It was a pleasure to meet you at the GOP meeting in Winnebago, and I just love all the people up here in District 5, mainly because this is my roots. This is where I grew up. This is where I raised my family, and I want it to stay this way.
Perfect. Well, Stacy, thanks so much for coming on the Sunny Side. Well, thanks for being the first video guest on the Sunny Side of Life in our 4th season here. And thank you for watching this and listening and being a part of our show. And you can see that with all of the work that you've done, the entrepreneurial stuff, all of the time that you've donated to the cause against human trafficking and Team America, Team Iowa, and now running to be on Team Stacy for Stacy Besch running for District 5 Senate seat in the primary. That's June 2nd coming up. So we'll talk to you again. And Stacy, I think if anybody doubts it, they've certainly seen it and heard it now. You have certainly been the sunny side of a lot of people's life, and look forward to seeing how you will continue to be the sunny side of people's lives as you go forward.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
When the shadows fall and doubts begin to creep, remember together we're strong, never weak. Lift your neighbor up with kindness every day. Let your actions speak the words you want to say.
The Sunny Side of Life is a weekly production about our life on the family farmstead here in Iowa, the liberties we prize, and the pursuits which make us happy. None of this is possible, of course, without Christ in our lives. For the Lord God is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory.
Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life. Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your Sunnyside life.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the sunny side of your life in Christ be made evident unto you each and every day, and give you peace.